happens? Well, you drive to the airport, you park, you stand in the security line. Then, if you're lucky, like we are, we've got clear global entry nexus. My wife is a wanderlust traveler of the world, and she's got all that dialed in for our family. Thank goodness, because we've spent not a lot of time standing in security lines. I would highly advise. But then you walk to the gate, and then there's a delay flashes on the board, and it adds another half hour here. But then you get on the plane, and then there's another 30 40-minute delay because of this, that, and the other. And these are things that you're not planning for. And then at some point, you have to figure out, when do you eat, or what do you eat, and when are you going to eat, and when are you going to even land at this point to be able to not be famished. And do you want to eat stuff on the plane or not? Do they even serve stuff on the plane? You're not even sure anymore, because they used to give you at least the little pretzel snack thing, but now they don't even do that. And so then, oh geez, we got all these things that are really challenging for us to show up around how to travel when we're at the airport and eat and stay sane, in a sense. Most guys handle this the same way. Every single trip, they wing it. They grab whatever's closest, or whatever they set down, and they glance across the terminal and they see this food place. That's what they end up deciding. Or maybe it's a Hudson News and they get to grab a bag of chips at the gate, or a fast burger on the fly before boarding. Well, today, I'll show you how to plan for a full travel day so that you can be prepared. And you don't have to feel like every time that you get on a plane that you're going to gain some weight, because that's not exciting or ideal either. Right? If you think about this, if you travel a lot and every time you left on a plane and came back, you gained 1 pound, you would have problems pretty darn fast. So this is a call out to all my guys who travel a lot to let's find a better way. And I constantly help guys navigate and manage airport travel situations all the time. That's even what the Eating on the Go guide was originally built for. My busy guys that were traveling a lot and needed support, accountability, and help to do so. So that ends up being the big situation here for them to be long-term successful. So that is what we want to do. Now, this is Driven for Health, and we are jumping into episode 157. I'm Coach Brian Pirana, and really excited to have you here on this journey. Now, I've shared a couple times that I travel a lot. My wife, Amber, that's her business. She does travel, bucket style list type experiences, usually abroad, Europe, Africa, Asia, Alaskan cruises. She sent our family to Peru on spring break. We're hopeful to go to Dublin this Thanksgiving, maybe Japan next spring break. So we have all these goals that we want to accomplish in our time on this earth to go travel. And so let's recall a trip that I had just recently. It was last summer. We flew over to France for a 2-week European trip. We did a Disney cruise from Rome all the way through Italy to Greece to back to Rome for 7 days. Then we flew to Paris. We did Disneyland Paris for 3 days, Paris for 3 days, had a blast, loved it. But on the flight home, we were coming from France to the US, and man, it was difficult. We showed up, and all of a sudden, this 18-hour trip of just the whole travel experience, from waking up to getting to the airport to then doing all the things that you need to do, ended up being, holy cow, went from like 18 hours of traveling to get finally home to over 24. And this stuff happens all the time. One silly rule that Chris from episode 117, he travels a lot. He's one of my guys that lost over 20 pounds in the Call to Rise program, the 100-day fat loss challenge that I talk about all the time. I would encourage you to go check out. But he travels a lot, and he always suggests travel early. Get up, make the first flight, because the chances of missing or delaying just goes up from there. And my wife would concur. She definitely is always trying to book the least amount of connections, the best time to do it. And we've woken up at 3 or 4 in the morning a number of times with our 4 kids, rolled them out of bed, somehow got them into the car, and off we went. So, what happened on this trip? Well, we ended up finding lounge access because we do have credit card points and different situations for membership for priority lounges. And that is a godsend, especially when you have kids. And you know that when you end up buying anything with multiple kids, it's $100 minimum to buy Subway sandwiches at the airport. That's just how it goes. So we get lounge access as much as possible to help expedite the food thing, to help try and save some money, or at the very least, parents out there know, save the time to think about food in general. What are we eating? And it's an ordeal. Parents know. So if we have lounge access, then here's food, eat and enjoy. And what I did is I just plan around the food that's there. I usually go with heavy protein, lots of vegetable type stuff. And at the very least, I portion. I try not to get my hand in the gummy bear jar or the trail mix thing either. I will have a beer or two just because I enjoy that experience and I don't drink often. I do enjoy a beverage, but I don't drink it as much as I would like to. But uh, so that goes for the alcohol conversation that we'll have again at some point on this podcast. But so then you have the buffet and you have to practice decision around portions and what you're going to decide to eat around what's there. And that's really important. So certainly we have hunger, we have your energy, there's digestion, there's mood, there's all these situations that come up that you have to decide what it is. And that's something that I'll make there. I will also say, like an overseas flight, you get food on the plane, but most domestic, you get little snacky things. So then that's a completely different ball game for it, and we'll go to it. So let's get back to the actual thing. So that trip changed how I always approach airport food and opportunity. And we've been traveling like this for the last 10 years with all 50 states, multiple countries and continents, which I'm very proud of and excited that we've been able to do. But it starts with some form of planning those full travel days. Now, before you leave this, I want to ask one question. When is my next reliable meal? You have to think through it. You can't just wing it. You got to look at what your day holds and how am I going to manage this situation so that I eat an appropriate amount of food to manage the outcomes that I have in the day. So gas station, just like the last episode 156 was gas station, now we're at airport, and they test two different skills, the on the go. Now, gas station tests whether you can read a nutrition label and a fast pit stop and pick a better option that across the shelf of however many things are there. And the airport tests something a bit more challenging, harder. It tests whether you can actually plan under the deadline that you can't control. Right? You show up at the airport and you hope everything's on time, but at that point, you have just a generalization of when you're actually going to need to leave your house, how long it takes to get to the airport, the time to get to the gate, and then the time to board and fly. These are things that you do know and understand within reason outside of, I remember another time we were trying to get out of Portland, Oregon, and holy cow, it went from like 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. to we were getting out after midnight. And that obviously changed the flight and the situation that we had, especially with the younger kids. I think Levi was maybe 10 at the time, which means we have four. He's the oldest. So the youngest was, I think in line was about five-ish or so, 4 or 5. And and kids just hanging out at the airport for that long is challenging. Again, parents know this. Now, here's how you answer that question. At any point in the travel day, if you have a real chance to eat in under 3 hours away, then we need water, we need a backup snack, and we need to have a real meal if possible. Or you can pack a real meal too with you, like bring in a sandwich, piece of fruit. You can travel with that. And we're going to go over some TSA rules here too to help navigate and manage. If it's like 3 or 6 hours, then you need to plan a real meal to fit in the day on purpose, whether you're actually at the airport or when you land, in a sense. You have to have a real plan. and you can't just leave it to however the day is going to hold up. If it's 6 hours or more, then you need to have a real meal. You need to pack an insurance plan in a sense to manage any potential delay. Having a delay insurance meal is something that's shelf stable, a protein bar, a bag of jerky, something that zips in a bag so that you can actually eat it if the day and travel falls apart. We're not eating it on a normal travel day, but it just sits there in case. So a protein sits in the travel bag as an example that can always be there and saves you a couple bucks because what's a protein bar at an airport? Like $1 more than it normally is. And it's just $1 in convenience or maybe worth paying for, but regardless, it's still an extra dollar. All right. So these are things that we have to pay attention to. Let's move into the TSA or toss category. So we're going to play a quick game. I'll name something that you might pack in your carry-on. You guess in your head as we're driving along or walking along or whatever you're doing. Is it TSA or appropriate, or you're going to get it tossed? And man, it is frustrating. I lost my college Nalgene bottle because it had water in it and they wouldn't just pour it out. And they're like, well, you can walk all the way through the other side and pour it out. And they wouldn't just dump it. And we didn't have time. We had young kids at the time. We had to get, and my wife just has zero tolerance for TSA stuff. So I lost my neon green, white lid Nalgene bottle that I had for years because of that instance, because someone forgot to dump water on the other side of the carpet in the machine line. All right, first, the fast brown sandwiches and wraps, hard boiled eggs, firm cheese, jerky, nuts, protein bars, whole fruit. If you're going to be staying in the country, then these salad foods are generally acceptable through TSA. They can be, certainly there might be some carry-on limits that apply, but man, the amount of snacks that we've stuffed in our kids' bags and gotten through TSA with has been a lot over the years. Now, some other ones that people might think about and want to do is Greek yogurt, TSA. Yeah, but it needs to be capped at a certain amount. Hummus, yeah, but there's a certain amount. Peanut butter, you probably should buy them in the individual packages, not bring it in a tub. All right. TSA generally considers peanut butter a liquid, which is funny in a sense, but your sandwich might disagree. But TSA is going to win here. Salad dressing, same thing. There's going to be a specific amount that you need to do before you can get it through that line and not have them discount it and toss it in the trash bin. So here are the cap for all four, and it's worth knowing the rule, not just the number people half remember. Every liquid, gel, cream, or spreadable food like peanut butter has to go in a container of 3.4 ounces or less. 3.4 or less. All of those small containers together have to fit in a quart size bag. You get one bag per person, not one bag per item. So if you want yogurt, hummus, peanut butter, and dressing, they all have to fit into that quart size bag, and it has to be in individual containers to be able to move them through. A pre-made shake, man, I remember this one time I had it was a Muscle Milk protein shake, and I just watched it get tossed into the trash can. I was like, "Can I just drink that, please? Can I have it, and I'll just drink it right now?" And there's so many people going through. They have TSA zero tolerance for anything like that, and it was sad because it was definitely over 3.4 ounces. And if I would have just remembered that it was in my bag, that's a constant. Amber says, "Hey, everyone check in their bag. Make sure there's no liquids." And inevitably, there's always someone with something. Even this last trip coming back we were going to Alaska, we were walking through Vancouver TSA to get pre-checked and clear customs for USA there because they do it ahead of time. And there's a bottle of lotion, suntan lotion, a cream that we did that we had to end up chucking. It was in my bag. I put it in there. We had to play Jenga with our suitcases because we got too much stuff. We actually had to buy an extra suitcase, and it still ended up in my bag, and we had to throw it away. I was sad because it was like a $10 bottle of cream that we had to just chuck. So let's talk about some dry protein powders or creatines. Man, it's somewhat hard to pass white powder through TSA and say that, yes, it's protein powder, not cocaine, right? But you are allowed to have protein powder and creatine are allowed in carry on and checked bags. If you have more than 12 ounces or 350 milliliters, you place the container in a separate bin for x-ray scanning, and TSA is probably going to do some additional scanning on it to make sure it's confirmed that it actually is what you say it is. TSA recommends putting non-essential powders over that amount in checked bags. That original package is not required, like the protein container, but having a label on it can help easier explain what it is and forego some TSA snafus of what is this white stuff you're trying to get through on the plane. A frozen gel ice pack could be convenient. I probably would advise not to travel with that, but maybe you have a family and it's going to be something that you can freeze at hotels and carry and keep food cold in a cooler as you move on a road trip out west or something. Cool. That makes sense. But only if it's solid when you reach at the checkpoint. If it's partly melted, slushy, or liquid pool temperature, it's not gonna fly. It ends up being treated as liquid instead, and it goes back to the default of 3.4 ounces. Empty water bottles are good. Do not bring water through that. You will get tagged as my Nalgene story. Whole fruit works, but we have to be a little bit more specific. Fresh fruit in general works through TSA on domestic flights. So putting an apple, a banana, having a sandwich with a piece of fruit is an ideal way. Sometimes going to Hawaii, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, these are more remote areas. They might not allow fruit or vegetables to be a part of that. Certainly always check. Currently, I would say no to that. I remember we had about Levi loves apples, lots of bags of apples. And this kid will literally eat a whole bag of apples if you let him. And we had apples in our bags coming from Hawaii back because we did that probably about 6 years ago. And Oahu, we stayed in Honolulu and drove all around the circle. North Shore was amazing. Loved swimming with sea turtles, loved the sticky rice and coconut shrimp. And man, that island just treated us so well. Had a blast. Very fond memories. But we couldn't take apples back. So we had to eat a bunch of them and then ultimately, unfortunately, throw the rest away. Taking them out of country, that's a whole different beast as well. You just can't do it. And you do have to declare any type of agricultural products to the Customs and Border Patrol so that you are able to get what you need done to not get tagged later or have a fine. They can fine you and it can be pretty steep. So there we go. We've covered a lot of different things. We have noticed some patterns. Solid foods have to be clears to no size, but liquids, gels, anything spreadable needs to be that 3.4 ounces and make sure it's not banned outright. You can always search TSA or Google it and for a updated thing. All right, let's go to food safety for packed meals. Clearing TSA doesn't mean your sandwich or your cooked chicken is still edible 5 hours later. All right, USDA rules is pretty simple. It matters more on travel days than most other days. Perishable food shouldn't sit unrefrigerated for more than 2 hours or 1 hour above 90 degrees. All right. This is something that you have to just think about in terms of food safety and what they call the TDZ, time danger zone, where bacteria starts to grow and can cause digestion issues that can get your tummy upset. We can certainly store food in an insulated bag or just plan it to be eaten. Or, unfortunately, in my situation, I'm just going to delay it. I'll eat something 3 or 4 hours and I'll roll the dice and hope that I don't have problems. I particularly don't have or have not had problems in the past, but I feel like I have an iron gut and I have very little issues with food poisoning or any type of things like that. So I might push it a little bit and not worry too much. All right, moving on, we've got the terminal. We're going to give some awards here and some real airport examples of the in the terminal itself. The best full meal goes to a customizable bowl, a salad, a protein plate where you can actually pick the base of the protein and then control the portions of whatever it is. So think of like Chipotle style type dish or restaurant where you can actually do it, or maybe something like Chick-fil-A, and that actually goes to the best chain fallback. We can actually find very familiar chains of even restaurants that I've done in this what to order series, like Chick-fil-A. You can get the grilled nuggets if they're serving that, or at the very least, get a grilled chicken sandwich with a fruit cup, and that can hold you over. That'll give you enough protein, fiber, and make it actually manageable to not overeat. The best emergency purchase is going to go to a protein and a fruit combo, where ideally it's a protein shake with a piece of fruit, but a protein bar and a piece of fruit can help cover. It's certainly going to be far better than any pastry or candy bar sitting at the register right as you check out. The best, healthiest halo trap. This goes to the smoothie counter. And smoothies, we still need to do a smoothie episode, but man, there's a lot more calories in these things than you think, a lot more sugar than you think. A smoothie could have 800 calories, so like call it healthy, but it's really not. And we have to be careful to not have that because it can easily have 500, 800 calories primarily of, of sugar. All right. So there's some other places that we can find there that allow for the the ease of meals that I didn't list. If you end up sitting down at a restaurant, we can order a la carte as well and find or just specifically ask, hey, can I just have the burger, no bun? Instead of fries, can I have a salad? But just know you're going to probably pay $20 for that experience either way. So sometimes just going with the build your own order in a line, like Chipotle style, would end up being the most cost effective way. Right? We want to pay attention to just the order so that it doesn't get out of control. If you're fortunate, we're going to move on to airport lounges. This is one of my favorites. We end up basing in Cleveland, flying out of Cleveland, so they do have a rather small lounge. I don't know why they don't have them bigger, but also I can understand they don't want to just feed people endlessly for hours a day and have hundreds of people go through. The airport's trying to make money, and so are the businesses there. But when we go in, we're always looking for that protein first meal in a lounge, the vegetable heavy stuff to fill up on those first, looking for low calorie beverages or even the coffee machine to help, or 0 calorie beverages, lower calorie alcohols, limiting them to one or maybe two at the most so that we don't overdo it. The lounges have small plates, which allow for you to be able to easily access more enjoyable portions without having to load the plate up too much. So those end up being wins. Make sure that you have your travel perks and your lounge access ahead of time, and then that will help you manage that with ease. And hopefully, you'll be able to find some time to squeeze in there and not have to wait. Some of the biggest traps that are going to be in there are the desserts, the breads, the donuts, the cookies, the pastries, higher calorie alcohol drinks that are served in large glasses. Now, certainly you want to get your money's worth, but we don't want to actually get your calories worth. Like over 1,000 calories at the lounge probably isn't going to help. Moving into actually flying on the plane. All right. What we can do here is that on short planes, they just have the cart. You can get a low calorie beverage, maybe a snack, and that's fine. The pretzel, maybe a cookie, not that big of a deal. It can easily fit in your day and we can move on. Or you just deny that and you have your own plan of I ate before I left. I'm going to eat when I land in a restaurant outside of the airport when I get there if it's a shorter trip. But if it's a longer one, maybe you eat before and you bring that sandwich idea with you. But on a longer flight, we need to have like a snack box and eat something there. Now it'll use obviously has some processed amount of food. We can pick and choose what we eat out of what is there. And that ends up being fine. So we don't just overdo higher calorie amounts or just overly processed carbs and such. When we can actually buy on board fresh options as well. And like United, you can actually buy an economy bistro items that are available if you pre-order, and that ends up being the hook. If you pre-order them, then you can get something more custom made and available. Now, something to worth knowing while you're flying in the air, food tastes different up there. It's a combination of the simulated cabin, salt tastes 20 times the 20 to 30% less intense. So sugar tastes 15 to 20% less because of the lower cabin pressure that changes how your nose and your taste bud perceive and pick up the flavors. This was really interesting when I was looking at this and I never really thought about it, but that's why things can be salted more or things could be more sweet tinned so that they give the taste of what you're trying to do to experience in, say, a dessert. So they might add more sugar to it. Now, certainly, as we start to wrap up, landing, you got to have a plan for when you land. Of when am I going to eat? What's the first meal that's going to happen? Am I eating at the airport? Am I eating at a place that is outside the airport on the way to the hotel or the destination, the family? Am I going to go meet family and go sit down with them at lunch or at a restaurant or go to their house? This is really important for you to plan ahead so that you have an understanding of how many calories you should have eaten earlier, during, and even after so that you can be successful here. And certainly pick a restaurant, or at the very least, look at Apple Maps to help manage what's available at your destination so that you pick a better food choice and can be successful with that. Even planning a grocery store run or an Uber Eats, a lady that I had worked with in the past. I remember years ago, we would decide what her Uber Eat order would be to have brought in from a local restaurant, or she would get a delivery of food that would be brought to the hotel that she could put into the refrigerator. She'd even do the research on how big the refrigerators were, if they even had them in the room that she was staying in, because that would be important if she needed to plan food so that she could stay in control of her food. And I've worked with pilots before and flight attendants and all, and we have to manage that on the travel because their life situation, they don't want to spend $20 a meal every time they step in an airport. They will actually bring food with them, multiple days worth of food, and that can be Jenga in and of itself. Just a really interesting thing there. In closing here, before your next trip, do pay attention. Ask yourself, like, when am I going to eat? When is food going to be available? What type of snacks should I take? If I have kids, how many more snacks should I bring? In a sense, so that they can stay full and not get hangry. If you need some help here, I've got a whole system around airport and travel on the go. That's the Eating on the Go guide. You can grab it at go.brianprana.com/eating on the go, all one word. Click the red button, download the guide. It's yours. It'll show up right then and there for you to get and start applying. I made it super simple, it's very detailed and easy to understand so that you can just get it and take action. And as always, if you need more help, you travel a lot and you still don't have this figured out, even if you plan and best laid plans of mice and men often go astray. That's what the Call to Rise is. It's a 100-day implementation program to actually get you to do the thing. Sure, we have all this technology out now that you can get meal plans and this, that, and the other, but humans still human. They're still not going to make a choice or a good option, or regardless of if best laid plans go astray. So, humans and accountability and navigating some of the challenging life situations, that's what we do around nutrition, fitness, lifestyle, mindset, and doing it around other driven guys that are for whatever reason, challenging getting their health and aligned with how they want to look and feel. So that's thecalltorise.com. Check it out. And if it sounds right for you, I answer a significant amount of questions on this. So it makes a lot of sense when we move forward. Now, if you're on the road for work or you know someone is, share this or this whole series with them. It started at episode 145 and we're on 157. So that's pretty cool. I've got a couple more that we're going to be doing before we wrap up, some fine dining, maybe specific cuisine style restaurants as well, so that you guys are equipped with what to do at different places. All right. Well, leave a review, leave me a question at Brian at brianprana.com. That's my email. You can send me. I reply to all this. And that is it for this episode of Driven for Health. Train hard, eat smart, and I'll catch you in the next one.